It is now my pleasure to introduce NCA's 106th president, Dr. Kent Ono. Now, the story is told that for years in the middle part of the last century, NCA presidents did not present a presidential address at the annual conference. Eager to revive the practice in anticipation of her own upcoming presidency, Marie Hockmuth Nichols renewed the presidential address in 1968 and compelled a reluctant Douglas Enninger to present one at the Chicago Convention that year. In her own address in 1969, Nichols opined on the tyranny of relevance, and she wondered, but need we ask ourselves whether or not the idea of relevance has not taken on a more sinister aspect in our time, whether it has not become a bullying slogan allied with power, designed to stop thought, as slogans frequently do, whether it fosters unreason instead of reason, whether under it, the freedom of the teacher to teach and the student to learn are not threatened, whether under it also the curriculum is about to become a patchwork, not a unified system of teaching based on a philosophy of education. Based on the title and abstract of his address, Civic, Activism, and Social Justice, Leading NCA as Through Change, I suspect Ken Ono will have something to say this evening about the role and nature of NCA's relevance some 51 years following Nichols's ruminations, and will undoubtedly be the better for Ken's insights and commentary. So please join me in welcoming for his presidential address, NCA's 106th president, Dr. Kent A. Ono.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate your making the time to tune in to this first ever streaming presidential address and to be a part of this virtual National Communication Association convention during these challenging and difficult times. I want to begin by saying that I'm recording this address from the University of Utah, which is on the unceded ancestral lands of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute nations. I honor and give thanks to Indigenous communities in Utah for the privilege of being able to live and work here. I also want to thank Routledge, Taylor, and Francis for making this talk and our awards presentation possible. Many heartfelt thanks also go out to David McMahon, First Vice President and Primary Program Planner, Kristen Yednock, Convention Manager, and the rest of the National Office staff for all of their hard work that has made this convention and this address possible. In the 20 minutes I have to deliver this address, I hope to do three things. First, to welcome you to this address, which I've now just done. And if you are a new member, to the association. As Utahns say, I appreciate you. If we were gathering in person, I would hope that as a new member, you would introduce yourself to me at the traditional newcomers reception and tell me at least a little bit about what brings you to NCA. And of course, I would look forward to connecting with old friends and making new ones. We're not in person though, so as I record this, I must content myself with picturing your faces and with hoping you will picture me walking toward you, hand outstretched for a warm greeting. Second, in this address, I want to reflect on the NCA presidency from the perspective of being a person of color and the first Asian American, first mixed race Asian American, and first Japanese American president of the association. Being NCA's president is both a tremendous honor as well as a serious obligation. It's an honor because members entrust a president with the power to lead through this unique role. It's also an obligation because as a person of color, one strives to do their very best for all members, as well as to honor the legacy of other NCA members of color who struggled historically and struggle contemporarily to make this a better association. Leadership itself can be part of change. And third, I will end by talking about activism and leadership, the need for them, and the need for an engaged constituency in this, the largest and broadest communication professional organization in the world. While a master's student in communication at Miami University in the great state of Ohio, back in the late 1980s, I realized my passion and my dream, which was to become a rhetorical critic, a scholar, and a professor. The support I received from people like Jack Rhodes, Kathleen German, John Murphy, and Jimmy Trent made it possible for me to envision pursuing a doctoral degree, something I had never seriously contemplated before Miami, and to be prepared to attend the University of Iowa as the first in my immediate family to seek a post-baccalaureate degree. My parents, after all, wanted me to get a job, and graduate education was, in my household, an alien concept and promised to be more of a debt creator than a lucrative career. It was at Iowa that I realized how little writing about people of color there actually was in the field, and hence how few lessons about people of color were available to me in rhetoric and communication. At the moment I realized this, I committed to fixing it. I remember saying to Bruce Gronbeck, Michael McGee, John Line, Kathleen Farrell, and others that I don't want another student in the field of communication to have the same experience I've had of finding next to nothing about people who look like them. Their support, and especially Bruce Gronbeck's inimitable guidance, set me on a path to writing a dissertation about Japanese American protest rhetoric and to working with other scholars in the field to produce scholarship relevant to people of color and indigenous people, a passion I continue to pursue today. Like so many of us, I've been overlooked and bypassed many times during my journey. Sometimes, even my mentors abandoned me because of my politics or advised me to set my goals lower. Most recently, I've received hate mail because of my research on critical race theory. And my reputation has been, at key moments, negatively affected because I am outspoken. I've also felt invisible and not taken seriously, like so many of us. An early memory while on faculty at UC Davis stands out to me. I remember being at a scholarly talk as an audience member on campus, and so many of us have done that. And a fellow faculty member publicly mistook me for an AV tech and would not take my protesting, "I am not an AV tech, I'm a professor," for an answer, insisting I must be the AV tech. Also at Davis, while I was speaking as a representative of faculty of color and indigenous faculty in a meeting with campus administrators in a small room, the chancellor interrupted my opening statement on behalf of that group and scolded me in apparent fear or worry, proclaiming loudly, "Now, this has got to be a civil discussion." I tell you these brief stories for 3 reasons. First, to connect with those of you who've experienced something similar in academia. Second, to inform those of you who may not have experiences like these to hear about them. And third, to preface my suggestion here that NCA is more than just another professional organization for me. Attending my first NCA in Boston in 1987 was probably pretty similar for me as it was for most people. The number of people at the convention was overwhelming, but also exciting. I was thrilled to be around so many people like me who were serious about communication. As a newcomer, I was just a number, though, in a very large crowd of people, and I felt invisible. I knew very few people, but one memory particularly stands out to me that helped change my relationship to NCA. At an early convention, I ran into Tom Nakayama, this year's Carol C. Arnold Distinguished Lecturer. And Tom showed a genuine interest in me. He told me about the newly formed Asian Pacific American Caucus, and he invited me to the APAC business meeting. While at the business meeting, I began to feel at ease. It was homey, informal, conversational, unassuming, unpretentious, inviting, and relaxed. It was there at APAC that I met Gordon Nakagawa, Casey Lum, and Kate Motoyama, as well as many others, and ultimately went on to be an early chair of APAC. I had found a home, one where I would later meet Rona Hulualani, the late Todd Imahori, and so many more. NCA was my first academic home in the field of communication. It was a foothold, a place to be comfortable as a scholar, and a place to grow. APAC connected me to NCA, and NCA connected me to the larger field of communication. Because of my work in APAC, and later the Affirmative Action and Intercaucus Committee, I met so many people who would become my friends, such as the late Lindri Niles and the late Nacho Cordova. NCA opened my eyes to people like me doing work in communication departments and at universities far and wide. We talked about shared struggles within the field of communication and within academia more broadly. I began to see my own experiences and concerns as allied with colleagues throughout the field. I came to understand that the problems each of us experienced within our social bubble extended out to others in their bubbles. Hence, I began to realize how individual concerns were really NCA-wide and even sometimes national. And those concerns could be addressed through policy and legislation, among other things. Indeed, change was possible. These last few years as an elected leader of NCA have been years of significant change. I don't know how this period compares with other times of change in NCA prior to the beginning of my membership in the 1980s. But to me, these years are indeed memorable. For example, the leadership of NCA changed the way the NCA Distinguished Scholar Awards were handled. The Journal of Communication published Paula Chakravarti, Rachel Kuo, Victoria Grubbs, and Charlton McElwain's Communication So White, which drew attention to the racial inequities in the spheres of journal editing, editorial boards, publications, and citations. The Communication Scholars for Transformation Facebook page was launched. Members initiated the Open Letter on Diversity and in the Communication Discipline, which garnered 1,000 signatures within 2 days. The journal, Rhetoric and Public Affairs, was reconceived and reorganized. A new journal, also out of Michigan State University Press, Rhetoric, Politics, and Culture, was founded. CritNet was retired, and ComNotes was created. Past President Ronald Jackson II initiated an NCA task force that resulted in the NCA Center for Communication, Community Collaboration, and Change. Star Muir headed up NCA's task force on sexual harassment that led to changes in NCA policy. And this year, the Legislative Assembly has the opportunity to approve an Indigenous Caucus proposal. These are only a few of the many, many important changes that took place during this period. In addition to these notable changes within the association and discipline have been social changes. Recent events have caused many of us to become active, more active, or active again. At the same time that COVID-19 has changed our lives, sometimes in the most painful and permanent ways, activist movements against police brutality, the current threat of fascism, against anti-Black, anti-Asian, anti-queer, anti-feminist, anti-Latinx, anti-Indigenous, and anti-immigrant political currents have been growing apace and with increasing intensity. These events inspire many of us to become more active and to seek and make change. For some scholars in the field, making change is part of us. It's part of being. Many of us have a second shift, or even a third one. The second shift, refers to the work that women so often do at the end of the day after their paid jobs outside of the home are done. The third shift is the social activist and community work that women of color and Indigenous women often do, usually after everybody else has gone to bed. To put this another way, social activism and change, working to improve communities, including NCA, has been an occupation for scholars of color in the association long before the most recent horrific events that pain us and depress us, but also remind us, re-energize us, and refocus or redirect our efforts. This, of course, is not to say that we're the only ones engaged in change. Obviously not. Just that there's an existential reason for our being engaged in it. Often this work we do comes under fire. Our efforts get noticed, but not in the ways we would always want. Yes, we're prepared for this. It doesn't always surprise us, and yet each time it happens, we still feel raw shock. Right now, universities, scholarly associations such as NCA, as well as the work many of us do in universities and associations, are under attack. The Trump administration's executive order on combating race and sex stereotyping, banning diversity training, and his calling critical race theory un-American propaganda, combined with his announcement that he will sign an executive order establishing a national commission to promote patriotic education, should concern us all. As a top-down executive policy making, encroaching on freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and academic freedom. It's troubling. It's a troubling entree into university education and scholarship. So what do we do about it? In addition to any advocacy we do after work on our teaching and research days, we must have critical discussions in academia about the role of government and the rights of humans. We must discuss why a free and public press is necessary to any serious vision of social justice and democracy. We must also participate in the governance of our professional associations, organizations that, as NCA does, represent us in Washington, D.C., and provide information and guidance to the public about communication. Organizations that encourage and support our scholarship, teaching, service, and careers. As you think about what I've said in this talk, that NCA became a professional academic home for me, in part because I met Tom and attended an APAC business meeting, that I decided long ago to help make the field better for people of color and Indigenous communication students, even as I worked hard to make NCA and communication better for all. I have had the privilege of having been a leader during significant change in the association and field, and my presence itself is both a sign of and an act of change in the association. I invite you to reflect on what I've said about leading during a period of change and leading as itself a type of change, and to become engaged yourself. See yourself as someone who matters. See your actions and your presence as part of change. I call on you to be part of the field and the association's renewed civic activism, an activism premised on a powerful recognition of material reality and the conditions in which we live, an activism that views service on behalf of others as a social good, and an activism that puts the I in the service of the we. I encourage you not to fall prey to ideas that civic activism in a professional organization is not real. For any time we change people's lives, it is real. And we are all complex humans with complex pasts and complex communities, and we play many roles in life. NCA is a place where change happens, and it is a place where futures can be created and sustained. So many past leaders within NCA, far too numerous to name here, have shown us as living examples why it is important to struggle and what comes of that struggle. They have struggled for what we have now. Honoring their legacies is critical to further humanizing this space we call academia. Simultaneously, struggling ourselves for new change, that is, becoming leaders. And leading is critical to creating a healthy, vibrant, rich, and lively future. Helping others and sharing our experiences with them through mentorship, pedagogy, service, and research is yet another critical ingredient to finding art and beauty, indeed, arete, in scholarly life. It is time for us to lead. And by leading, we must share our experiential knowledge with those who will next step into our shoes, make NCA their home, and continue our work of making it a better place. Thank you. Now, please join me for the live awards presentation where we will recognize and honor those who have done good work. I turn things back over to Dr. Trevor Perry-Giles, NCA's Executive Director.
I'd like to now recognize Kent Ono again and David McMahon for the traditional passing of the presidential gavel.
Hey, David, how are you doing today?
Just fine. How are you doing, Ken? That was a great presentation.
Thank you. Well, you know, I've been here in Utah carrying around this super heavy thing for about a year, and I've been waiting for the opportunity to be able to pass it along to you. It is the NCA presidential gavel. So if you're ready, I'm going to pass it along to you.
I am.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Here you go.
Oh, that is amazing. We've been practicing that magic trick for days now. I'd just like to take this opportunity to say something about Kent. You know, people sometimes have concerns about following someone who is exceptionally good, and Kent Ono is exceptionally good. Yeah, getting to know Kent while serving in the presidential rotation has been a genuine gift. He's a remarkable scholar. He's a thoughtful, ethical, wise, and visionary leader. And above all, he is simply a good human being. So far from being concerned about following Kent, I'm honored and appreciative of his friendship, his leadership, and his commitment to NCA. Just like anyone fortunate enough to know him, the association is better because of him. I'd like to ask that everyone turn on your cameras if they're off. And please join me for a virtual round of applause for the soon-to-be immediate past president of the National Communication Association, Dr. Kent A. Ono.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. Thank you, David. We will now begin the awards portion of this evening's event. Before we begin the presentation of the NCA Awards, I'd like to acknowledge the 2020 recipients of Presidential Citations for Service. At Wednesday's Legislative Assembly meeting, NCA President Kent Ono conferred presidential citations on several individuals and institutions, and as I announce their names, I ask that you please silently indicate your applause for their accomplishments. Outgoing executive committee members include Star Muir, an NCA officer, Ramey McCarrow, the chair of the Finance Committee, and Shannon Van Horn, Teaching and Learning Council chair. Outgoing editors, Deanna Daniels, the editor of Communication Education, Debbie S. Doherty, the editor of the Journal of Applied Communication Research, and Todd Sandell, the editor of the Journal of International and Intercultural Communication. Presidential citations for service are conferred on the Department of Communication Studies at Colorado State University as the host of the 2020 Virtual Doctoral Honors Seminar. Scott Myers of West Virginia University, Amy D. Clark of the University of Virginia at the College at Wise, Richard T. Craig at George Mason University, and Jimmy Manning of the University of Nevada, Reno, for leading the NCA Speaker Series, Developing Ideas for Teaching and Research, a replacement program for the annual HOPE Conference. And the NCA Diversity Council, including Rachel Griffin at the University of Utah, Cami Anderson, Kennesaw State University, James Cherney of the University of Nevada, Reno, Daryl Johnson of Kutztown University, Michael Lechuga of the University of New Mexico, Ashley Noel Mack, Louisiana State University, and Elizabeth Parks at Colorado State University. In addition, presidential citations for service are awarded to Melbourne Cummings, Jesse Delia of the University of Illinois, Larry Grossberg of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Marcia Houston of the University of Alabama, Wenshu Lee of California State University, Chico, Ramona Liera Schwichtenberg of Wichita State University, Gordon Nakagawa, Tom Nakayama of Northeastern University, Dolores Tano at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Judith Trent of the University of Cincinnati, and Philip Wander. Congratulations and thank you to all of the recipients of a presidential citation for service. NCA is now pleased to recognize the following recipients' distinguished achievements in our discipline. Each of this year's awards recipients join an esteemed group of scholars and educators who have been honored in the past for achieving excellence in the areas of teaching, research, and service. The first award this evening is the Donald H. Eckroyd Award for Outstanding Teaching in Higher Education, which honors an NCA member who exemplifies superlative teaching in higher education. This year, the award is presented to Jimmy Manning of the University of Nevada at Reno. Over a 15-year career of teaching, Dr. Jimmy Manning has been a remarkable teacher and mentor, an innovative and productive scholar, a true servant of the discipline, and has used knowledge about communication to create positive change. Congratulations, Dr. Manning. The Michael and Suzanne Osborne Community College Outstanding Educator Award recognizes individuals who have made outstanding contributions to education at community colleges while exemplifying excellence in teaching, scholarship, and service to the communication discipline. This year, the award is presented to Carrie Burns-Loynette. Dr. Carrie Burns-Loynette, a professor at Collin County Community College, exemplifies excellence in teaching, scholarship, and service to the communication discipline. As would be expected from a nominee of Dr. Burns-Loynette's caliber, a deep commitment to students is reflected both inside and outside of every classroom. Congratulations, Dr. Burns-Loynette. The Wallace A. Bacon Lifetime Teaching Excellence Award recognizes the teaching excellence of retired college and university faculty members. This year, the award is presented to Richard A. Churwitz of the University of Texas. Over the past 40 years, Dr. Churwitz has profoundly affected cross-disciplinary undergraduates and graduate students through the Intellectual Entrepreneurship Consortium at the University of Texas, which Churwitz founded and directed. The IDEC brings Churwitz's ethic of mentorship to serving and developing students from educationally underrepresented populations to become citizen scholars. Congratulations, Dr. Churwitz. The Bernard J. Brommel Award for Outstanding Scholarship or Distinguished Service in Family Communication recognizes the scholarship and academic leadership of individuals who have made outstanding contributions to the area of family communication. This year, 2 awards are presented to Joy V. Goldsmith of the University of Memphis and Elaine Wittenberg of California State University, Los Angeles. Dr. Goldsmith's research lies at the intersection of family and health communication, with particular interest in family interactions surrounding chronically and terminally ill patients. Particularly meaningful is the comfort model developed with Dr. Wittenberg, which locates the family as central to end-of-life care. Dr. Wittenberg's research advances understanding of family communication processes in the context of patient-provider communication, particularly regarding palliative care. Doctors Wittenberg and Goldsmith have successfully and consistently proven to be both rigorous in research and translation to the greater community by advancing family communication in order to change clinician communication behavior. Congratulations, Drs. Goldsmith and Wittenberg. The Charles H. Wolbert Research Award is presented to an NCA member who has published a journal article or book chapter that has stood the test of time and has not only had a substantial impact on the discipline, but has stimulated new conceptualizations of communication phenomena. This year, the award is presented to Mohan Dutta of Massey University for the article, Communicating About Culture and Health, Theorizing Culture-Centered and Cultural Sensitivity Approaches, published in Communication Theory in 2007. Professor Dutta's paradigm-shifting, critical theoretical, and applied intervention into health communication contexts and practices addresses structural inequalities and centers the voices of those struggling on global margins in bold resistance to previous scholarship. Congratulations, Dr. Dutta. The Diamond Anniversary Book Award is presented to the author of the most outstanding scholarly book published in the last 2 years. This year, the Diamond Anniversary Book Award is presented to Mia Fisher of the University of Colorado, Denver, for the book Terrorizing Gender, Transgender Visibility and the Surveillance Practices of the U.S. Security State, published by the University of Nebraska Press in 2019. Terrorizing Gender is a timely and important exploration of the increasing state-sanctioned violence and surveillance of trans people in the United States. The book mixes intersectionally anchored critical cultural and sexuality studies in communication to examine framing for trans people in American popular culture. Congratulations, Dr. Fisher. The Donald P. Cushman Memorial Award honors the top-ranked student-authored paper from all NCA interest groups that rank papers competitively at the NCA annual convention. This year, the award is presented to Lu Xuan Wang of Rutgers University for the essay Race, Social Media, News Use, and Political Participation. Given the current political and racial tensions in the United States, the selection committee found this paper timely and useful, as it has heuristic value for the role that social media platforms play in the political arena among racial backgrounds. Congratulations, Li Xuan Wang. The Douglas W. Enninger Distinguished Rhetorical Scholar Award honors scholars who have executed research programs in rhetorical theory, rhetorical criticism, or public address studies that demonstrate intellectual creativity, determination, and impact on academic communities. For 2020, there are 2 recipients of the Enninger Award. The first Enninger Award goes to Raka Shomei of Villanova University. As one of the first decolonial scholars in the discipline, Dr. Shomei has produced an important body of work that untangles colonial, rhetorical, and media practices. Beginning with the landmark 1996 essay, Post-Colonial Interventions in the Rhetorical Canon, and Other View in Communication Theory, Dr. Shomei's work has offered critical and political perspectives with which to engage neocolonialism and racism in the United States and abroad. Congratulations, Dr. Shomei. The second Enninger Award goes to Kurt Wilson of the Pennsylvania State University. As one of the foundational scholars in Black rhetorical studies, Dr. Kurt Wilson's work has deeply shaped the field of rhetorical studies. For decades, Dr. Wilson's work on public memory, abolitionism, Reconstruction-era public address, civil rights rhetoric, rhetorical space and place, and cosmopolitanism has advanced the field of rhetoric by modeling historical rhetorical methods. Congratulations, Dr. Wilson. The Franklin S. Heyman Award for Distinguished Scholarship in Freedom of Expression is given to the authors of exemplary research published in the area of freedom of expression for its exceptional quality of composition and the enduring value of the scholarship. This year, the award is presented to Patricia G. Lang of the California College of the Arts for the book, Thanks for Watching, an anthropological study of video sharing on YouTube, published by the University Press of Colorado in 2019. Lang's work highlights the value of self-expression and freedom of expression on the world's largest video hosting site, YouTube. This 12-year participant observation ethnography poignantly uncovers the journey of YouTubers as they negotiate their mediated sociality through the making and sharing of videos. Congratulations, Dr. Lang. The Gerald M. Phillips Award for Distinguished Applied Communication Scholarship recognizes NCA members with a distinguished record of research and creative scholarship in applied communication. This year, the Phillips Award is presented to Srividya Ramasubramanian of Texas A&M University. Dr. Ramasubramanian's revolutionary approach and stellar record of accomplishment exemplifies the essence of the Phillips Award. It shows how applied communication scholars can simultaneously and collaboratively infuse pressing social issues in communication research while bringing communication research to bear on our local and global communities. Congratulations, Dr. Ramasubramanian. The Gerald R. Miller Outstanding Doctoral Dissertation Award recognizes the most outstanding dissertations completed the previous year. This year, 3 awards are being presented. The first award is presented to Sarah Baugh of Agnes Scott College for the dissertation completed at the University of Denver entitled Julia de Burgos, Embodied Excess and the Unsilenced Memory, a decolonial feminist analysis of performances of resistance, advised by Bernadette Marie Calafel. This dissertation makes an important argument for a decolonial move in rhetorical memory studies to more ethically account for the ways in which globalized colonialized women in the global South, like Puerto Rican poet and revolutionary Julia de Burgos, have resisted the trauma colonization has systematically wrought against gendered, race, and class bodies. Congratulations, Dr. Baugh. The second Gerald R. Miller Outstanding Doctoral Dissertation Award is presented to Manshila Pokarel of Texas State University for the dissertation completed at the University of Utah entitled The Impacts of Visual Message Features in Cancer Risk Communication, advised by Jacob D. Jensen. This dissertation focuses on visuals as a means of communicating health information. Visuals are often used to communicate health information, including information about cancer risk, and this dissertation launched 3 studies employing multiple methodological perspectives to initiate a research program that investigated the persuasive impact of visual messages features in the context of cancer prevention and control. Congratulations, Dr. Pokarel. The third Gerald R. Miller Outstanding Doctoral Dissertation Award is presented to Virginia Sanchez Sanchez of Auburn University for the dissertation completed at Purdue University entitled Dando las gracias a mis papas, a discursive analysis of perceptions of policy and callings across generations of Latinx immigrants, advised by Patrice Buzzanel. U.S. rhetoric that embraces immigration is juxtaposed with the lived experience of Latinx immigrants, the country's largest immigrant group. This study uses discourse, i.e. everyday talk and societal understandings, to investigate how immigrants from different generations make sense of policy, immigrant portrayals, and their lives through the lens of calling. Congratulations, Dr. Sanchez Sanchez. The Golden Anniversary Monograph Award is presented to the most outstanding scholarly monograph published during the previous calendar year. For 2020, 2 awards are presented. The first award is presented to Sharday M. Davis of the University of Connecticut and Tamara D. Afifi of the University of California, Santa Barbara for the article, The Strong Black Woman Collective Theory, Determining the Pro-Social Functions of Strength Regulation in Groups of Black Women Friends, published in the Journal of Communication in 2019. Davis and Afifi examined Black women's communication patterns in ways that call into question decades of assumptions of interpersonal communication research, which has largely been generated from white, middle-class college students in rural parts of the United States. Congratulations, Drs. Davis and Afifi. The second Golden Anniversary Monograph Award is presented to Mohan Dutta of Massey University and Jagadesh Thakur of George Mason University for the article, Communication Sovereignty as Resistance, Strategies Adopted by Women Farmers Amid the Agrarian Crisis in India, published in the Journal of Applied Communication Research in 2019. Dutta and Thacker's article is based on 5 years of participatory research with women farmers in southern India. Against a backdrop of neoliberal agricultural transformation, gender and caste-based disenfranchisement, the article highlights how women from oppressed caste communities in southern India come together to organize for increased economic and political power. Congratulations, Drs. Dutta and Fokker. The James A. Winans and Herbert A. Wichhelms Memorial Award for Distinguished Scholarship in Rhetoric and Public Address was established by students, colleagues, and admirers of these two distinguished Cornell University professors and honors distinguished scholarship in rhetoric and public address. This year, the award is presented to Natalie Fixmer-O'Rays of the University of Iowa for the book Homeland Maternity, U.S. Security Culture and the New Reproductive Regime, published by the University of Illinois Press in 2019. Working from a reproductive justice framework that is necessarily attuned to race and class and myriad forms of consequential difference, Fixmer-O'Rays keenly demonstrates how topics and practices of maternal choice are shaped by discourses of nationalism, racial difference, and poverty. Congratulations, Dr. Fixmer-O'Rays. The James L. Golden Outstanding Student Essay in Rhetoric Award recognizes an outstanding essay by an undergraduate or pre-master's graduate student focusing on the history, theory, and criticism of rhetoric. This year, the award is presented to Kate Rich of the University of Texas for the essay Uncanny Demonstration, Holographic Cyborg Politics and Hologramas por la Libertad. Kate Rich's impressive essay interrogates the line between the human and non-human rhetorical body, raising important questions about the immediacy and mediation of collective action. Rich finds that an uncanny form of cyborg rhetoric can displace traditional notions of rights, and rhetoricity is as a last resort for resistance in authoritarian times. Congratulations, Kate Rich. The Carl R. Wallace Memorial Award seeks to demonstrate and promote and foster philosophical, historical, or critical scholarship of recent PhDs or advanced doctoral students in rhetoric and public address. This year, the Wallace Award is presented to Michelle Kennerly of the Pennsylvania State University. The committee found Kennerly's proposed project, Automatic Athens, which seeks to complicate appeals to Athens as a model democracy, both influential and innovative. This project will undoubtedly expand on Dr. Kennerly's impressive existing body of work, which continues to build important linkages between contemporary technologies and ancient rhetorics. Congratulations, Dr. Kennerly. The Leslie Irene Koger Award for Distinguished Performance is presented to a director, producer, teacher, or performer who has contributed an outstanding body of live performances and manifests a superior career dedicated to performance. This year, the award is presented to Patricia Succi of the Louisiana State University. Dr. Succi has been instrumental over the last 3 decades, almost beyond compare, in furthering the practice and study of live performance. Reviewers of Succi's work have described it variously as pioneering, generative, magnificent, boundary expanding, exemplary, and without peer. Congratulations, Dr. Succi. The Lilla A. Heston Award for Outstanding Scholarship in Interpretation and Performance Studies recognizes individuals' scholarly and professional contributions to interpretation and performance studies. The 2020 recipient of the Heston Award is Professor Julie Ann Scott Pollock from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Scott Pollock's book, Embodied Performance as Applied Research, Art, and Pedagogy, is a profoundly personal and emotional account of, and a handbook for, those who would do the kind of community-based work Scott Pollock has done throughout her career with performance ensembles. Congratulations, Dr. Scott Pollock. The Mark L. Knapp Award in Interpersonal Communication recognizes individuals who have made significant scholarly contributions to the study of interaction and/or relational processes while contributing to the quality of interpersonal communication. This year, the award is presented to Corey Floyd of the University of Arizona. Dr. Corey Floyd has shaped the field of interpersonal communication through both theory and research on affectionate communication, including pioneering work in the biosocial realm. Dr. Floyd's high-quality scholarship and groundbreaking methods have resulted in over 100 articles and book chapters. Congratulations, Dr. Floyd. The Orlando L. Taylor Distinguished Scholarship Award in Africana Communication honors a scholar whose body of work demonstrates a sustained commitment to the study of African American and/or the African diasporic communication and culture. The 2020 recipient of the Orlando Taylor Award is Kebuma Langmia of Howard University. Langmia's extensive work is highlighted both nationally and internationally. The groundbreaking book, Black Africana Communication Theory, led to Langmia being selected by the U.S. Department of State for a Fulbright Award. In addition, the originality and timeliness of Langmia's body of work creates a significant and enduring contribution to the study of African American and/or African diasporic communication and culture. Congratulations, Dr. Langmia. The Stephen E. Lucas Debut Publication Award aims to identify and praise a contribution to the discipline by an author publishing a first scholarly book or journal article. This year, the award is presented to Haley Nicole Otis of Colorado State University for the article Intersectional Rhetoric, where intersectionality as analytic sensibility and embodied rhetorical praxis converge, published in the Quarterly Journal of Speech in 2019. The selection committee praised this article as being timely, progressive, thoughtful, and creative. Otis's article is both culturally and theoretically significant. The article shows great depth and complexity, showcasing both theory development and application, while conveying the ideas in an accessible and relevant way. Congratulations, Haley Nicole Otis. The Robert J. Kibler Memorial Award recognizes individuals with a commitment to their profession, concern for others, and acceptance of diversity and forthrightness. This year, the award is presented to Vincent Waldron of Arizona State University. Dr. Vincent R. Waldron is Professor of Communication and Lincoln Professor of Relational Ethics at Arizona State. Dr. Waldron's career-long service activities embody a dedication to excellence in the communication discipline. Dr. Waldron always strives to build positive, healthy communities and relationships and models ways of doing so by communicating with others in a candid, caring, and forthright manner. Congratulations, Dr. Waldron. The Samuel L. Becker Distinguished Service Award recognizes individuals who have made the greatest contributions in the areas of research, teaching, and service to both NCA and the profession throughout their career. This year, the award is presented to Carolyn Calloway Thomas of Indiana University. One of the most widely recognized leaders in the communication discipline, Dr. Calloway Thomas is a former president of both the Central States Communication Association and the World Communication Association, a former chair of NCA's Finance Board, a former member of NCA's Educational Policies Board, and a member of several NCA association-wide committees and presidential task forces. Dr. Calloway Thomas is world-renowned for a devotion to promoting and exploring the link between communication and diversity in the Baltics, Asia, and Africa, as well as across North America. Congratulations, Dr. Calloway Thomas. The Distinguished Scholar Award recognizes and rewards a lifetime of scholarly achievement in the study of communication. The recipients of this award showcase our profession through their long-term commitment to the discipline and their continued consistent contributions to outstanding scholarship and intellectual leadership. So it is my pleasure and honor to present the 2020 NCA Distinguished Scholars. Our first Distinguished Scholar this year is Dawn O. Braithwaite of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Dr. Dawn Braithwaite is the Willa Cather Professor of Communication Studies at the University of Nebraska. A past president for both the National Communication Association and the Western States Communication Association, Dr. Braithwaite has been awarded NCA Samuel L. Becker Award for Distinguished Service, the Bernard J. Brommel Award for Family Communication, and WSCA's Distinguished Scholar Award. Professor Braithwaite has a deep record of research with over 125 publications, including a number of peer-reviewed articles in the top disciplinary and interdisciplinary journals, as well as 6 books, including the co-edited Handbook of Communication and People with Disabilities. Dr. Braithwaite truly has and continues to pave bold new paths for the possibilities of communication research. Congratulations, Dr. Braithwaite. Our second distinguished scholar to be recognized posthumously this year is James Chesborough of Indiana State University. Dr. James Chesborough was truly one of the intellectual leaders of our discipline, and it is fitting that this work be recognized by the Distinguished Scholar Award. Chesborough's record of publication, first and foremost, is more than deserving of this award. During Chesborough's career, this prolific scholar published 8 books and over 75 journal articles and book chapters. Just as important, however, are the many ways in which Dr. Chesborough expanded the discipline. For instance, Chesborough was an award-winning pioneer in the study of LGBTQ communication issues and a key figure in establishing the study of gay and lesbian communication as a legitimate area of inquiry. Taken together, it is clear that Dr. Chesborough was a leader in expanding the intellectual boundaries of our discipline while remaining grounded in the established modes of theory and inquiry that lie at its foundation. Congratulations, Dr. Chesborough. Our third distinguished scholar to be recognized this year, and regrettably she can't be with us tonight, is Dana L. Cloud. Dr. Dana Cloud has, over the past 25 years, generated an influential, discipline-shaping research agenda in the areas of rhetorical theory, rhetorical criticism, and social movement rhetorics. Cloud's outstanding record of publications, invited lectures, awards from across multiple divisions of NCA, and intellectual leadership all testify to the quality and impact of this work on our discipline. Indeed, as all of us in rhetorical studies know, Cloud's published scholarship has prompted some of the most intriguing ongoing debates in the discipline, making Cloud a perfect candidate for the Distinguished Scholar Award. In all these ways, Dr. Cloud is one of the foremost scholars in our field and justly deserving of a 2020 Distinguished Scholar Award. Congratulations, Dr. Cloud. Our fourth distinguished scholar to be recognized this year is Ronald L. Jackson II of the University of Cincinnati. Dr. Ron Jackson is a professor in the communication department at the University of Cincinnati and is past co-editor of Critical Studies in Media Communication. Jackson has had a profound impact on the communication discipline through exceptional and extensive mentoring, publishing, and service. Whether it be as NCA president, co-editor of CSMC, ECA president, chair of NCA's finance board, dean of a College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati, or in any of other many leadership capacities, Professor Jackson has been a considerable force throughout a long career. Dr. Jackson has created an entirely new school of thinking about African American communication and identities that crosses the disciplines of communication, African American studies, and sociology. Congratulations, Dr. Jackson. Our fifth distinguished scholar to be recognized this year is Brian H. Spitzberg of San Diego State University. Dr. Brian H. Spitzberg is the Senate Distinguished Professor of Communication at San Diego State University. A professor for 40 years, his research has been essential in establishing the dark side of interpersonal relationships. As the author or co-author of over 100 articles and book chapters and the author of several scholarly books, Professor Spitzberg has helped to nudge relationships away from a positivity bias and into a scholarly space where conflict and aggression can be studied and understood both in positive and negative terms. Dr. Spitzberg is honored now for a remarkable record of national and international influence on interpersonal communication studies, the continued development of advanced research designs across the field, and for a number of other areas of study. Congratulations, Dr. Spitzberg. Our sixth distinguished scholar to be recognized this year is Sarah J. Tracy of Arizona State University. Over the last 26 years, Dr. Sarah J. Tracy has developed a significant program of study in the area of emotions and well-being in organizational communication. Tracy is one of the best-known qualitative methodologists in the field, with the model for qualitative quality and frenetic iterative approach to qualitative research influencing scholars throughout the subdisciplines and used by a number of other disciplines, such as education, management, and sociology. Tracy's research has broken ground, bringing to the discipline the study of topics like emotion management and workplace bullying, and is continuing to evolve with recent essays related to inclusion, conversation, experiential learning, and the whiteness of merit. Together, this scholarship has resulted in theoretical development of communication as it relates to identity, emotion, organizational well-being, burnout, communicative craft practice, and compassion. Congratulations, Dr. Tracy. Well, normally, we've come to the end of our awards presentation, and we would all gleefully leave the room for a drink of champagne and lots of pictures and congratulations. And so I would ask that we now virtually congratulate all of the awards recipients this evening and acknowledge their tremendous achievements for our discipline and for all our lives, actually. And in that spirit, thank you very much. I hope you've had a wonderful 2020 NCA virtual convention. I hope we'll get to see you all in Seattle in 2021. And I hope that you've enjoyed this evening's presidential address and awards ceremony. So good night.